We are live. All right. Oh, just like always, because I can't get this together any faster, we'll get the ball rolling on this in just a minute. Happy Monday, hopefully everyone is having a decent Monday. Mine's actually been pretty productive, but I don't want to. I don't want to ruin all my talking points here super early. So, daily shares. Okay. All right. So, sorry, getting going here. 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm already working on my third cup of coffee. Anyway, hopefully everyone's having a decent Monday. Mine's been fairly productive for the most part. Been just doing stuff around here, trying to get some cleaning done. I'm not going to show, but there's just tons of boxes all over my living room. We're still in the midst of moving, and we're waiting to hear back as far as the buyer's agreement and all that. And we should be hearing something soon. It's just with everything that's going on with COVID, everything's working in such slow pacing. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with all of that. And we're looking forward to moving. We've been, oh my God, I've been filmed quite a few videos in this apartment, and we'll miss it to a certain degree, but I'm definitely not going to sit here and dwell on it for too long. I think it's also smart to move on and just look towards the future. Got a couple people in chat. Hopefully get some more in here. Hello to everyone who's in here. So this episode going to be talking about a few stories. Going to be talking about the Last of Us 2. There's a controversy there. Going to be talking about Doctor Who a little bit, and yeah. there's been a lot of stuff to talk about, but got some funny reselling stories going on, as well as some cool board game related news, which I guess we'll get started on for all the board gaming news. Got a couple more people in here. How y'all doing? Having a decent Monday? And I'm telling you what, I'm definitely looking forward to like being able to go outside, being able to hang out, barbecue with friends. Hey, what's going on, Pat? Dude, I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much. It is not the same. I was actually Micah just texted me this morning telling me about a birthday party for his son. And I was like, oh my God, I miss all you guys. No, I'm doing good. Doing a little podcast, my little one-man show for right now. But other than that, doing good. Trying to stay busy, trying to stay productive. I'm also waiting for yeah, definitely. Oh, I know. And now I feel really bad all the talk of like hanging out and stuff. And yeah, I think I've come to term with the fact that I don't think I'm necessarily like afraid of people, but I guess from, all of my longtime friends like moving away and I never see, I'm just so used to being like a homebody. So like the idea of like going out and spending time with people I don't normally spend time with is very scary. And that's not to say anything negative. I mean, I have, we love you guys. It's something I'm trying to work past. So, yeah, definitely miss seeing people. Definitely want to try and do more. Sorry, I'm going through my feed here. Definitely want to try and do more spending time with people after this is all said and done. I was just you hearted all of my comments on a couple past videos. I did not check out the latest one with you and Micah singing. That's gonna be later this evening when I have like my own quiet time. But no, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you guys. They're saying the quarantine or the lockdown is gonna pass on the 15th. I'm hoping that happens, but our governor is using very selective language as to what he wants to do. I will say, though, when I was watching his press conference today, he sounded like he definitely has the right idea. It's just like the formula in which he's getting there feels like it's very off. And this isn't a political thing whatsoever. Like he gets it. He's aware that the economy needs to start opening up because there are, people's jobs at stake. So he gets it. It's really hard for me to watch it because I feel like he's very much like our president, where like he'll say something I agree with, and then like 2 sentences later he'll completely contradict it. So anyway, no, I'm looking forward to this whole thing being lifted. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing all of you, seeing as many people as I can, hanging out with all you guys as much as you can, because after we move, that time is going to be very limited. However, we will be hosting. We'll be able to host stuff in our own place. Finally, not an apartment, a house with a completely refurbished kitchen with an island, which is kind of a personal dream for me. So, definitely looking forward to this all being over. Fine. Did you know WWE Films did a Christian movie? I want to say yes. Which movie was that, by the way? Oh, by the way, while you're answering that, I'm going to No Lesser Thing. Go check out their channel. My buddy Patrick. Awesome content creator. He did a video talking about, I think it was a bunch of videos that Christians should, invite their non-Christian friends to watch. I will, and I haven't seen a couple of them, but I definitely, I don't think I'd put God's Not Dead on that list. I don't think it'd be on my list at all. That's not to say it's a bad movie. There's just things about it I just don't like. I'm very much like a cinephobe. I love all cinema. unless it's designed to do something negative. Like, I'm not a fan of what's it called? It's a genre of filmmaking that's designed to disgust as opposed to like scare, and it's a series that I'm 100% against. So, like I said, I'm very much a fan of movies, just not that one. The Resurrection of Gavin. Yes, yes. You know what? That is true, and that would make sense considering that Shawn Michaels is born again. I haven't watched it because WWE Films is. I've watched movies from WWE Films. I gotta say, I don't go out of my way to watch them. No, it's fine. I got it. The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. I know what movie you're talking about. I remember that was pushed almost as much as they pushed the See No Evil series. Like, WWE films put out a lot of movies. Like, I'm thinking back on a few. Oh my! I'm thinking back to like Knucklehead and Chaperone, and oh my god, those were terrible. Ugh. But yeah. Yeah, when I was watching your list, I was like, God's Not Dead is really high on his list. And that's not a slight to you in any means. I watched the movie. I remember when I watched it on Netflix before they pulled it. I like the movie. There were times I got emotional. And it's just weird because, like, I forget who said it. A close friend of mine says, they go, you're more emotional when it comes to your spiritual side at home as you are in church. And I'm like, yep, a lot of that's by design. I'm a little bit embarrassed to show a lot more of my personal side when it comes to me at church. A lot of that is just how when it came to my faith and how me telling that to family, how that really got affected. And they're not like mad or anything about it. It's just when it comes to me conveying emotions and stuff, I'm very secretive and very to myself. So, very few people at church have actually like seen me get emotional. Micah is definitely one of them. But you know, he married me and Sarah, and he's definitely got a much bigger calling than, you know, working as a server, which I know he likes doing. And if I ever were to open up catering, he'd be the first person I hire as a serving staff. So. But no, I haven't seen The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. No, like the two big ones were like The Shack and War Room, which I haven't watched. And The Shack, I've heard good things about. War Room, I heard good things about. Then there was the movie they made about the woman who worked in the pregnancy clinic. That one I don't know if I'm going to sit through and watch, only because of the supposed scene. And I understand this is, you know, it's done and edited in a film studio. This isn't really actually happening. It's just it's one of those things I don't know if I can actually sit through and do. But I know the story. I've watched her do several podcasts and interviews, and she's actually really cool, and her story is really interesting. But I've heard the movie can be a little much at parts. But then again, the topic matter is very touchy. So yeah, definitely when this whole thing is, like I said, when we're able to start seeing each other, I definitely want to start getting together. Both movies. Just was really trying to pick movies that had a decent amount of discussion about the validity of God's existence. No, that's cool. And I don't want to make it seem like, hey, I'm making fun of you for liking God's Not Dead. And you shouldn't feel bad for liking that movie. I remember talking with my buddy Paul. You probably know the Paul I'm talking about. I'm not going to say his full name. We were talking about that movie, and he goes, "Yeah, it's a good movie to like kind of bring it all home." But they really, yeah. Here's the thing with that movie. I like what they were doing with the movie. They were definitely trying to they were taking more of a backseat as to this kid, you know, having, you know, defend or prove God's existence rather. And I will say this. I love Kevin Sorbo. Ever since The Legend of Hercules, I love him. And he's done so much work outside of that. It's ridiculous. And the whole premise though is we're doing film talk here, folks. Just FYI for everyone watching, we're doing some film talk. I remember watching the movie, and the whole premise was the kid needs to basically, you know, debate his case of God's existence because the professor, if I remember correctly, he wanted I guess he wanted to fast track a course, but in order to do so, he needed everyone here to basically comply with saying that God does not exist. That way he can kind of like move everyone forward. I believe that's it. And then one kid was like, no, I refuse to do that because that's very much against my beliefs. And it was funny when I was talking about this with an atheist friend of mine, he goes, I don't really see what the problem is. Why wouldn't he just say, no, I don't believe in God, and then, you know, go home and he does his own thing? And I'm like, because my exact wording to him was, well, because it also mentions in scripture, you know, if, you know, you didn't about denying him, you know, I'll deny you before the Father. I'm like, we're kind of touching on that levels of like the big sin you shouldn't do, like, you know, denying God to your peers, because he'll deny you upon, you know, he'll deny you in front of the Father upon Judgment Day. And you know, the very grim, brief, you know, answer. And I'm like, no, he shouldn't do that just to fast track a course. But anyway, and then of course I found it so funny how comically evil all the atheists were in this movie. I don't think there was a likable one in here. I mean, Kevin Sorbo, I think, was the only likable one, and that was because he was actually giving the kid a chance to defend himself, whereas Dean Cain was that cocktail dinner where all of his friends are sitting here bad-mouthing religion while his clearly, like, God-fearing girlfriend is like very uncomfortable with it. And then there's, you know, the reporter who's dying of cancer, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, they're adding so much onto this movie. And and then there's the girl, the Muslim girl with the abusive father. So I'm like, they're just checking every single box they can. But at the end, I mean, it does what it's supposed to do. I haven't seen the last movie. I have watched the second movie, which I think the villains are even more cartoony in that one. But I feel like it's making a more clear point. Yeah, okay, at least you understand. I'm like, wow, these are some really, really evil atheists. And I'm like, wow. And then not to mention, like, the two pastors with their shoehorn saying that was kind of getting grating, and like, okay, so no, I have nothing against the movie. Sarah's wanted to watch it. I clearly said I'll sit through and watch it again. It's a decent movie for what it's trying to do, but I'm not a fan of vilifying atheists, because that's what they choose, and we need to respect that. And I'm not going to sit here and give a top movie spot to a movie that's I feel like taking some cheap shots, but the message was the overall thing. And it got to end with the Newsboys, a band that I've really never come to fully like. So, oh no, it wasn't bad, but the rest of your list I thought was pretty solid. So so yeah. Speaking of movies, we're kind of going through all of our movies now, trying to find stuff to get rid of. So I'm basically, like, once we get all, like, the movies and stuff packed, I'm basically going to open it up to anyone who wants to come by and grab whatever they want. There's a few of them, few collector stuff, which I'm going to be giving out for contests. So remember, you know, we hit 350, small little giveaway, folks. So, and I'm going through all of it, and I couldn't help but laugh as to how bad my taste in movies were at one point in my life, like really bad. And then I'm reminded by some videos just how good a taste of movies that I have. Like, I'm looking right now on my shelf. I'm like, Desperate Measures, and people are like, oh, Andy Garcia and Michael Keaton, and like that movie is terrible. I'm like, you don't know life. That movie is great. And the funny part is that Michael Keaton plays the bad guy, and Andy Garcia's son, who's the hospital patient, like, it was kind of foreshadowing to the movie Jack Frost, in which they play father and son. So it just, A lot of people are saying that was the groundwork for Jack Frost. I don't know because I'm not a fan of that movie. It's a little too campy. But speaking of that, I cannot wait to get to the theaters as well. Although I am upset that they pushed a lot of movies to the fall. Black Widow was definitely a movie I'm still interested in seeing, but I'm hoping they don't push it back too far. I do find it funny that every time I turn on my PlayStation 4, Sony keeps trying to sell me a cheap copy of Birds of Prey because they can't sell it. Which sucks because I'm a huge DC Comics fan. And I remember the Birds of Prey TV show on the CW back in like the early 2000s or the late 90s. It didn't do good at all. I actually read the Birds of Prey comics. Those were not bad, but this movie was no. And no. They just should have named this movie the Harley Quinn Experience or Harley's Night Out or something. It was a Harley Quinn movie. It should not have been a Birds of Prey movie. It had less to do with the Birds of Prey and more to do with Harley Quinn. And there were things that they did in the movie I was not a fan of. But Ewan McGregor playing an over-the-top villain, I guess so. He did his job. Cool guy in real life, too. From the one time I was actually able to meet Ewan McGregor. Or as people refer to him as Star Wars Jesus. So anyway, moving on. We got some funny reselling stories because for those of you who are watching who don't know, I do buy and sell as a hobby. And how my business usually goes is whenever I sell something, I never sell it at top value unless it is still shrink wrapped and in pristine condition and depending on the want for it. And then usually, and I'm always going to go down on top price because I'm not Walmart. And I don't think it's really fair to do that, especially now. You know, if people are looking for something like a toy or a video game or something, and I don't want to hoard it. So, let's start with this. So there was a guy who wanted to buy computer RAM off of me. It was desktop RAM. Basically, it's basically how fast your computer can process memory, I believe. Not an expert on computers. Anyway, so he wanted to buy 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, previous generation RAM, but two sticks of 8 gigabytes apiece. And I put it on for I put it on for $50. I originally had a guy ask me if he could trade. I think I might have mentioned this in my last video, but it does have a follow-up. So he wanted to do a trade. I told him no because he wanted to trade like Razer mouse like for the computer, and I told him no. So anyway, followed it up, and he said, "Oh, I'll take it anyway." Okay, well, this is like 2 days after the fact, and I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to be at this location where I live, because my ad does say pick up in where I live in the town I live in." I told him, "Hey, I'm going to be at the Target in that location. I'll meet you there." "Oh, I'm in Walmart in Camillus." I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, okay. Well, I'm not heading. Well, I'll see you when I see you. So I'm walking around Target, waiting. Finally, I get a message. "Hey, I'll meet you at the Wendy's over in Syracuse, mainly near towards Destiny Mall." At that point, it would have been. At that point, that would have been at least a 20-minute drive to a high traffic area on a Friday. And I told him no. I said, the ad says pickup. And he goes, "Well, can you go lower then?" And I said, no. And he goes, "Okay, well, I'll just buy it online." And I'm like, okay. Follow up to that was I ended up actually selling the RAM to some guy who was really cool. He originally wanted me to meet him over on Route 31, like 15 minutes away, but I was already waiting on someone else for another deal. So me leaving, and I would have run the risk of them waiting there. And they said they were on their way. So, I sell the RAM to him, and I actually sold a couple of hard drives just because they were sitting around and I wasn't using them. I actually tried giving them to him, and he told me he goes, "Nah, man, I got to give you something for it." And I'm like, "No, dude, I'm trying to pay it forward." As he mentioned right before that, I'm like, "No, I'm trying to pay it forward. I don't know what's on them. They're not important to me. You'll get more use out of them." He goes, "No, man, let me give you $5." So he gave me $5 give me $5 for 2 hard drives. So I thought that was really cool. Hey Draco, what's going on, brother? Hopefully you're doing okay. I know last time we spoke in YouTube Gaming Network, you were saying your backlog is getting pretty crazy. And I gotta take this opportunity. Yes, get Final Fantasy VII Remake and play it. I'm actually going to be doing that relatively soon. $5 for 2 hard drives. They weren't anything of any real value. One was, I think, a 500 gigabyte. One was a $160 gigabyte. And I was like, yeah, dude, just take them. And can someone explain to me why people are trying to sell 500 gigabyte mechanical hard drives for like $30, $40? No, no, they're not worth that much. Come on. Anyway. I'm good. I'm happy to say I've completed more games this last week than the past few years. Already done Wolfenstein 2 on the last mission. My brother was just telling me about Wolfenstein the other day, and I don't know what it is about Wolfenstein. I just don't have that much of an interest to really get into it. Maybe another time. It's kind of like the Dishonored series to me, where I just played it at a really awkward time in my life, and when I went back and tried playing it again, it didn't really feel right. So, but hey, I'm glad you're getting your games done. I notice you're doing pretty good on your channel as well, talking about soccer. I will never call it football. Oh, yeah, I've heard good things about it. It's just one of those games that I never get around to. And I have a backlog, too, as well. Yes, soccer. Yep, that's what happens when you try to tell someone who's a fan of international sports how to pronounce the game. But anyway, soccer, yeah. Not a fan of soccer either. I respect the heck out of that sport, and I think everyone who does soccer is super cool. And you're not going to see me on a soccer field. But if the field was a lot shorter and it was, shorter, yeah, I'd be all in. The newer Wolfenstein games are great. I might give them a shot. The problem is I don't know which ones are good and I don't know which ones are bad. I keep hearing about how the newest Wolfenstein is trash. I keep hearing about the older ones are great. It's a series I've never really got my feet wet with. I currently right now I play Dead by Daylight casually because the rank we're just now on Tome 3. I got Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I paused for over a week, not because it's bad, but because I got a 4K TV coming in that's really going to boost what the game can do. And I just got a PS4 Pro. I got Star Wars Fallen Order on backup. I still have yet to get through Red Dead Redemption 2. I still have yet to get through Kingdom Hearts 3. So I got a backlog going. Even if you don't watch soccer. Anyone who says who you support. The funny thing about that is the only reason I know about Manchester United is because I hear it in the what was it? Euro Trip. Where Vinnie Jones he plays I don't know what position he plays in the movie, but he's like Manchester United. He's like you don't mess with Manchester United, I guess. And then the day after tomorrow, where they're like the people and I think it's Glasgow were getting snowed in, and it was their last scene before they eventually died, and they're like giving thanks to what they appreciate. And the one guy was like Manchester United. I was like, all right, well apparently they're a pretty hardcore team. I always either. New Order or Old Blood, wasn't a fan of the second one. If remake 100%, I will get next pay. And dude, oh my goodness. 7 remake on if you have boost mode on, you're playing on a PS4 Pro with a 4K TV. The game is absolutely stunning. The game is stunning now. The problem with the game is that they've really found a way to really expand it. Because technically, in the original PlayStation 1 game, you can get done and leave Midgar. And I said this in the group, in several hours. In this game, I'm 7 hours in, and I haven't even met Ares yet. So I'm kind of putting it off, and a lot of it is My kid is turning 3 years old, and she's full energy. She's tired of being inside all the time. And if I start playing, I'm going to want to sit and not want to move. And she wants to play. She likes doing hide and seek. She loves to wrestle. So, I'm really trying to like balance, fatherhood right now takes precedent over video games, but I'm really hoping like there's some brief slowdown. I'm definitely going to get into some Final Fantasy VII Remake again. Fantastic game. I've heard the ending kind of pissed people off, but honestly, I don't care if it is what I think it is. I give it a pass because they're setting it up for multiple installments. Hey, Emily, how you doing? Did Jordan Peele call you about appearing in his new movie? I'm not there yet. My missus is expecting her first in a few months, hence by the way. Gotcha. No, smart idea. Yeah, get it out of the way now because like the first 3 months are the tough ones. But I have all the faith in the world that this will be something you're gonna knock out of the park. So if there's any ounce of doubt in being able to handle a newborn, I wouldn't worry. It is tough, but I've said if I can do it, anybody can do it. And people are like, no, don't sell yourself short. Oh, my coffee's getting cold. So anyway, move on to more reselling stories. So sold some board games. Those were actually easy to get rid of. Although someone did kind of stand me up. It's buying board games I'm finding is so hard right now. How often do you do these live streams? Would love to come and hang. Obviously, I'm aware. That's why I try to do them a little bit early because I know some people who live over around the UK time zone. So I'm trying to aim around 3 Eastern Standard Time, which should be about 9 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of what it is. So it's either going to be on Mondays or Fridays. It's going to coincide with my days off. Now, as far as like, I'll talk about this now and I'll get back to the reselling stuff. As far as like board game related video reviews, several things are going to be happening. I'm going to try to do them as much as I can. The problem I'm running into is that the computer I'm on is on its last legs and the phone I'm recording on, it does well, but I'm using I'm learning I need to learn a lot about video editing, which is why you should all go check out Emily's channel because she's got an awesome reselling channel and she knows far more about video editing than I do. So go check her out. Fortunately, I've been furloughed in the UK, so I've had a lot of time. Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I was actually just catching some stories about the UK, and hopefully you guys are able to get back to it soon. Yeah, no problem, Emily. No, you're doing awesome. You're doing awesome. It's amazing to see how much traffic your channel got. Like, I'm basically trying to take a channel that's been very stagnant, if not dead, and I'm trying to build on top of that again. So right now, these one-man podcasts is basically me just talking and hanging out with you guys, or just a kind of way to stimulate some people in here on a regular basis. So yeah, around Monday or Friday, figure between 2 and 4, and stream for about an hour and a half. If Bumble recommend, yes, Draco, go check out Emily's channel. She does an amazing reselling channel. And I don't know what her rules are for shipping internationally, but if you got some video games, Emily, Draco might be your guy to buy it, although he does live in another country. So cut him a deal on shipping. Again, I don't know how you do with all that. So Draco, good guy. Draco, awesome dude. One of the few people when I was an admin in the YouTube gaming network who actually understood why it was good to kind of be a little bit of a hard ass. Oh, cool. Well, good. She can hook you up on good video game deals when she gets them. Anyway, so yeah, buying board games here on like the local apps is hard. Let Go does not have board games, at least when I checked, and maybe I should look into OfferUp and a few others, but I try to stick to Facebook. I have cash sitting in my wallet because I don't want to. Excuse me. I have. Coffee's coming back. I have cash in hand from selling a bunch of stuff, but everything is close. How I would love to go to Barnes and Noble, or how I would love to go. There's this awesome board game store at Destiny Mall. I can technically go buy Gloomhaven if I wanted, but then I need people to come by who can sit through a D&D type game for hours on end. Do I have any takers for that? So anyway, a woman came by, and I think she got like 4 or 5 board games, and I only charged her $40, and everything was in new condition except for one, which had a rip on it, which I basically gave to her for nothing. She later goes on to tell me that they're for her and her 7 kids, and I cannot begin to think of the amount of profanities that have been screamed at the walls of, of a bunch of bratty kids. I'm just kidding. Like 7 kids. Oh my goodness. Like, and then I asked her, because I felt compelled to ask. I asked her, like, is there anything your kids are really looking for? Like a kind of harder to find game? Because at that point, I was almost tempted to let her like look through my private board game collection and let her pick something out, and then we work on a deal. I'm actually giving away a bunch of extras to my nephews because they are currently going to be out of school until at least September. So, but yeah, really hard to buy board games here. I did have one more resale story, which is frustrating to say the least, but also like a warning to let it be a warning to some people if you're into buying and selling, especially on Facebook. Being direct, you need to be as direct as you can, but like try not to take it too far. So I'm part of a board game group where we do shelfies. I'll explain it. You just take a picture of like your bookcase or your shelving unit to show all the board games you want, and people are like, "Oh, look at all that cool stuff." Now, I will say, I never consider Facebook buying any good. Keep it local. Make sure it's in a location that you're comfortable doing the deal, preferably in the daytime, in public for people to see. And if you can, try not to use any addresses you're not comfortable giving out. Some people are cool having them come straight to your home, but only on as long as they understand, you treat my property and home with respect. It can be. I want garage sales. Well, not to kind of venture off the beaten path here, there was an article stating that the Radisson Farms garage sale like thing they're going to do, it got pushed to September, which means I'm pretty sure the Strawberry Farm sales that's in Liverpool is also going to get pushed, if not outright canceled. So, again, a lot of it's going to depend. I kind of wish they would, if Great Northern Mall wasn't in such the shambles that it was, I would love, they had like an indoor garage sale, which I found, oh my God, I found all of the Alien movies on VHS. I found Back to the Future on VHS, which is like one of my top 3 favorite movies. You gotta be careful with both Facebook and Craigslist. Yes, be very careful. If at any point you have a gut feeling that this could go wrong, never be afraid to like just tell them, look, this isn't gonna work. We'll have to reschedule, or I can't do it. I mean, I'm sure Emily is probably better versed in this than I am, but the rules I've come to figure out with is very simple. If you're selling, you want to be outright honest and direct and let people know where you stand. Do not put words in your ads that are very suggestive and very misleading. Please know what you're talking about, because I cannot tell you how many times, especially when I've looked at computers, people don't know what they have and they make it sound like it's much bigger than what it is. I can tell you right now, when it comes to computers, PCPartsPicker.com is the way to just debunk anyone's BS when it comes to electronics. Because I watched some guy literally try to offer a $20 surcharge to have him write down links to Amazon and Newegg for you to go and buy things. It's $20 for him to copy and paste a web page and give it to you for free. So Sometimes people don't like where you stand, like saying I had a puzzle and didn't count the pieces. People were all up in arms about it, but it sold in hours. Right. Yes, honesty is the best. If you're not sure something works, you need to let them know. Hasn't been tested. Don't really have the means to test it. Therefore, it's an as is sale. Make sure it is. Make sure if you have not tested it and you don't know the condition, put it as is. I cannot tell you how many times that can get you out of trouble because they're like, "Well, as is." Quick story on that: mint sealed in box, and you open the case and it's a resurface CD. Yeah, I can usually tell pretty quickly if someone reseals something, and I've actually caught someone trying to sell a used product that they resealed. I'll tell you that in a minute. So the guy I sold, I think I mentioned it before. I had a guy who was I sold an MSI Radeon RX 480 graphics card. I'll tell you in just a second. So I sold a graphics card to someone for $50. I looked online, averages around $75, $80 by itself. I had the anti-static bag as well as the box it comes in. I told him it was sitting in my desktop tower, which I have not used. So I don't know the condition 100%, and I did not test it prior to. He said, that's fine. Usually those older ones, you just got to clean and you got to upkeep. I said, okay, fine. I said, if there are any issues, just let me know within the next day or so, and we'll do what we got to do. So we did this deal on Saturday. He messaged me on Tuesday, telling me it didn't work. Then he told me, he asked if I used it for artifacting, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Oh, did you register it? No, I updated the drivers, but you just do on the MSI website. And he goes, oh, okay, well, it was used for artifacting. I'm like, that doesn't sound right because I bought all of this from a family member who works on computers for a living. So, and then it went from it doesn't work to, oh, it works, but it's just acting funny to, well, I'm going to try to ram it, whatever that means. And I'm like, okay. So I message him back like hours later, waiting to get some kind of response, and I got nothing. And I asked him, like, did you ram it? And I got no response. Days go by. No answer. I then get a random message on my phone from an unidentified number asking me if I could do a refund for the graphics card. And I'm like, yeah. Here's my thing. If I sell you something and it doesn't work, let me know. I will gladly pay you back. Unless I know for a fact that this is unused stuff, and if it's not working, clearly you did something wrong. Now, when it comes to this, I kind of treat it almost like a business in a way where it's like I shouldn't have to wait this long. And it's like the fact that it was like the answer kept changing. It went from it wasn't working to it's working, but it's acting funny. And then he said something like, "Oh, if it was for me, I wouldn't care. But I'm building a computer for my friend, and this just won't work." I'm like, whatever. So I get a message from him, telling me, "Oh, is there any way to get a refund?" And I was like, "Well, who is this? What's it about?" And he goes, "Oh, it's about the graphics card." And I said, "Well, it's been over a week. And you told me it was working. It was just acting funny." I said, the card was made 5 years ago. So, and I also told him, I'm like, I also don't know what happened to it to when you bought it to when you got it home. And especially when you're talking about ramming it, which sounds like he's hammering it into the motherboard. And I said, I'm like, when you messaged me 4 days after the fact, I was on the fence, but I was willing to do it. But the fact that it's been over a week, no. Mentioned something about wanting to call the authorities, and I'm like the ad said as is, and I told you to contact me. You ghosted me, waited waited another 4 or 5 days, and then now you're saying it's not working entirely. Make your story's frequently changing. I have reason to believe you're not being truthful. This sounds a lot like buyer's remorse. So I'm just like, look, no. The time is no. We're past this now. I'm not playing these games. I said clearly it works. Otherwise, you would have been messaging me every single day trying to get your money back. The authorities, yeah. No, I'm not. No, I'm not at all afraid. I don't know the authorities here by name, but I've only ever gotten one ticket in my life, and I got it reduced to something else rather than speeding, because I was honest and upfront with the police officer, and I always try to take that approach to just people in general. So, how do I tell when things are not sealed? Okay, you can usually tell when it's plastic sealed. You can usually tell if the seal is like protruding from the box, like I'll just use this for an example. Like, let's say this copy of Zoo Tycoon 2, like, let's say it was sealed, but like the seal was like folded and crimped like a half an inch away and like peeling outward. I can tell it was done homemade at home. The other way is with CDs. People don't understand. CDs they're not wrapped the same way as like board games and some toys are. That's actually that's a plastic seal that's actually like glued, or it's an adhesive, and you basically have to like peel it off and then like unwrap it. So whenever I see something that looks like it was put like sealed with like hot plastic, I'm like, okay, they definitely are trying to pull a fast one. A lot of it is where it's sealed. Usually they seal on the sides of the box, never on the top and bottom. But if you're not sure, I'd always recommend you look online. But usually have a pretty good eye for things like that. Malleable plastic, like the stretchy plastic that you can basically just stretch just by pinching and moving it. That doesn't exist on movies, and most movies, as well as CDs, as well as computer games, and it does not exist on video games, current, I should say. So that's how you can really tell. So, I forgot the story this whole thing stemmed from. No, you guys are great, because my knowledge is so low with these tactics. I take forever purchasing on eBay. eBay is a bit of a gamble, but I think it's starting to come around, especially now since a lot of third-party sellers are being very careful to not like jack up prices on things, especially with all the COVID nonsense that's been going on, and sellers who have had their profiles like restricted or completely removed for trying to sell like $40 bottles of hand sanitizer. So if you're not sure, always double check, always ask. And when it comes to selling, like, please just don't window shop and waste their time. If you're not interested in something, or if you don't have the money for it, please do not message people and ask them 1,000 questions. And then when they're like, okay, do you want it? And you're like, no, don't do that. That is so frustrating, because it's like, I'm sitting on the stuff that I'm trying to get rid of to make some little extra pocket money, and I'm willing to make a deal. But if you're going to sit there and waste my time by playing 20 questions, which can take an hour, 2 hours, back and forth all day. I've had to go back and forth all day at work. It's so obnoxious. Like, I was selling a PlayStation 2. No, I'm sorry, not a PlayStation 2. I was selling a Sega Genesis, and I had it listed for $20. And the guy was asking me 1,001 questions about it, and it went over the course of like 3 hours. And then finally, I asked him, I'm like, did you want me to hold it? He goes, no, I don't have the money. I just wanted. I'm like, for $20, what's going on? Yeah. See, you also do it on several other platforms. I just do it on Facebook because it's easier for me. If I were to try to make this into like a more of like a part-time thing instead of a hobby, I'll definitely have some questions. But yes, if you're going to buy something, don't waste their time. Please do not send stupid lowball amount, and I do mean stupid lowball amounts. Like, if something's $100, I swear to God, if you come out of the gate and start asking like, "Oh, can you do 20?" Just don't be too shocked if they don't answer you, because if you're going to insult them, they're not even going to give you the time of day. So I wish I could tell you why people do that, but I don't know. Just when it comes to buying, just be upfront and honest about it. And if you're trying to get a deal, just be honest with them about that too. And whatever you do, do not try to change the price at the last minute. That I've seen deals end instantly because of that. Like, be out of the door in the car, and then right away, and right away I'll get people. Oh, by the way, can you do this? And I'm like, I'm in the car and I'm already driving. Why are you doing this to me? So no, don't. No, once the deal is set upon, the deal is set upon. I'm gonna shoot up as nice hanging agenda. I appreciate it, Draco. Thank you very much for coming by. You have a good night out there. Enjoy your football when it comes on and your Manchester United. But yeah. Yeah, reselling is definitely fun. Thankfully, I know good people and I have decent contacts if I have to unload stuff for a good amount if I need to. An acquaintance bought something for $5 free shipping. I sent it to her locally and she didn't pay. Super awkward now. It's like, it's $5. You really couldn't afford this? Yep, I've had that happen. Yep. I sold an action figure that was still like packaged, and I said, I'm like, I'll do it for like $10. And I'm literally getting ready to turn off of 481. And then my phone goes off, and they're like, "Oh, all I have is 5." And I said, so I kind of like add insult to injury. I'm like, well, then I'm taking you to the ATM, and you can go get a 20, and I can give you change because we agreed on 10, and I'm about to get off the highway. So it's ridiculous. People can be, but at the same time, I've made some good money, mainly on Facebook sales. I used to make decent money on Craigslist, but Craigslist right now, especially where I live, and Emily might agree to this. Craigslist in New York is very. It feels like It feels like a marketplace that's always open, but no one's ever buying anything. I'm automatically thinking like an episode of Doctor Who, where they have all these stands open, but no one's buying because nobody wants to pay those prices. My personal favorite is with video games, like the people who just have like the automated, like they have pictures of notepad documents that they have taken on their phone rather than just take the picture of what they're selling. And they're like, they'll write it out and then say how much they want for it. And I've tried contacting those people, and oh my gosh, they're ridiculous. So then Facebook is just more blue Craigslist. Pretty. Facebook is, I like it because it's I feel like it's more direct contact, and I'm like I said, I haven't used most other buying and selling apps. I've encountered a lot of people ghosting me. I've been ghosted. I've ghosted one person in my whole life, and that was kind of because it was a deal that got away from me, and they were acting really creepy. So I met good people. Namely, actually, the guy I just learned from Emily, Dominic, I believe is his name. Sold him DVDs and comics, and super good guy. He gave me fair prices. I understood he was trying to run a business, and I wasn't in it to sell everything at top value. And he get it. Like there has to be a mutual level of respect. So that's why I usually give my business to people who I know are going to buy stuff off me, and I'll try to buy stuff off them when I can. So it should be a give and take relationship, but a lot of people just kind of see it as a get rich quick scheme, but they don't understand that people also know how to use the internet. Yeah, he does love comics. I felt bad, but I couldn't. Like there was a long box of comics that we were talking about him getting from me, but I ended up telling him no on it because I just wanted a little bit more on it, and I understand where he was coming from. It was like all New 52 and Flashpoint stuff, and I think he came up like $10-$20, and I was like, no, I'm gonna bring it to my guy over in North Syracuse, and that was pretty much that. So, good guy, just just couldn't come to an agreement, and that's fine. I don't hold any grudges towards him, and hopefully he's not upset with me. I actually still do have a long box, which I might end up selling. I am going to look up some of the prices on some of that stuff. Right, exactly. He's going to try to make money on it, and I'm just trying to make a few bucks. So I'm cool. I'm cool with the price if I'm okay, like if I'm essentially ready with the price. But anyway, so the reselling world, not for everyone, but if you're friendly, you got a good personality, you know how to talk to people, and you're honest and upfront, and you got like a good, you got a good work ethic, you can make a living on it. You can do pretty good. But kind of changing gears here a little bit. Going to be talking about The Last of Us 2. I feel bad because last episode I was talking about Star Wars and Leslie Headland and how she's like completely and utterly like botching, like she's not making it any good for Lucasfilms and for Disney. But anyway, so The Last of Us 2. For those of you who don't know, spoilers and gameplay. I don't know if it was gameplay video or just like cinematics within the game, but there were leaks showing a lot of stuff. And I won't say what that is, but I will. A lot of people were saying like this is the game ender for Naughty Dog, the company that's bringing this out, because they're mad that potentially a major character will end up getting killed, and they're worried that this game is pushing a very forced feminist agenda. And while I can understand people being frustrated with it, I also am of the tune of like, okay, well, is the game really going to suffer because of it? So I kind of waited on that to see what's going to happen, and then what ended up happening was the game director, the product director, I get, or it was either the product director or like the director of the game. He made it so much worse. Basically, anyone who had any content relegating to The Last of Us 2 talking about how they felt about these things, they all got hit with a false copyright strike against their channel. Basically, one strike on their channel restricts their accounts. 2 restricts it even more. 3, they lose their channel. They're done. So basically, it was weird how everyone all within like a few days span noticed that they were getting strikes on their channel based on their videos talking about what like the leaks. Now, keep in mind, they weren't profiting off of the product. They were simply talking about it and putting in their 2 cents on the matter. It's actually against Facebook policy to be doing what they're doing, but no one's put them in their place. And, the media was very quiet about this until all of a sudden it was announced. Though they found the leaker and he doesn't work for Naughty Dog. And it was just really weird because everything up until that point, the false copyright strikes, the game director publicly coming out, insulting people, blocking people. But to be fair, it's Twitter. He can do whatever he wants. And releasing very suggestive tweets, basically saying, if you don't support what we're doing, you're an ist and a phobe. And if you don't like what we're doing, then don't buy it. And right away, all I could think was EA, when they were having these issues with Battlefield 5, were they outright telling people, if you don't like our game, don't buy it. And I gotta say, I think that's really stupid for Naughty Dog. They're taking an IP that everyone loves. Like The Last of Us, a lot of people agree, is one of the greatest games that's been made in recent memory. And now they want to take the sequel and essentially use it to push an ideology and an agenda. And people are mad and they're voicing their opinions about it, and they're right, and they have every right to do so. And then through a third party, through a shell company that Sony owns, they're now going around and and they found out it was a shell company because it had absolutely nothing to do with the Last of Us. It was actually a company that Sony owns. They found out that they found out they were getting strikes on their channel for saying negative things about the game, which for anyone who follows the YouTube drama sphere, there was a content creator by the name of Mundane Matt who was going around and flagging channels to be taken down because they were having negative opinions about him and the content he was doing. And when he was pressed on it on the Ralph retort, I think for like hours or hour and a half or hours, he was denying it. And so finally he was put in a position where he had to nut up and shut up. And he came out and said, no, I did it. I shouldn't have done it. And then he apologized, and then he took back his apology, and it felt really forced. And basically, that's the vibe. It's the game that stole like everyone's hearts because of how well it was done. It told a great story. It had great memorable characters. It was very sad and somber, but it had like the good moments we all savored because we love the characters of Joel and Ellie. We're now learning that the game is slow, like the sequel that everyone has been waiting for years, is slowly being turned into like a pet project who are trying to push, who are using it to tell their story, not necessarily the story that needs to be telling. Now, there's a lot more to it, and I'm not going to comment on a lot of it because a lot of it's been unproven. And I think it'd be really selfish for me to make claims stating things to that regard, but I will say it's feeling more and more like Naughty Dog is going down the route of EA as far as how it wants to handle itself to the people who are disagreeing. They had two possible choices they could have taken. Two. They could have either ignored it entirely, not fall victim to the trolls, and just say, we apologize, we're getting back to work, we want to make sure we hit that June deadline. Or they acknowledge that people are upset and they want to make sure they're doing the best thing they can do going forward. Because in my honest opinion, if you take a franchise and you use it to piggyback a message that has nothing to do with the franchise, no. And people will argue. It does, because it's exploring the relationship of Ellie, even though there's really no relationship of her at the end of The Last of Us. Although when you watch the trailer for the second one, there's clearly like her and that girl and they're dancing. And I'm like, okay, people didn't really have a problem with that. It's the fact that the leaks were showing a whole different other thing where now you're trying to introduce more gray area into it and people are wondering why you're doing that. And it's not so much that they're mad about it. It's the mad that, again, a major character might be dying. And the fact that it mainly for me, the big one for me, it's how they've responded. They're blocking everyone, or I'm sorry, they're issuing strikes to channels that have a negative opinion on it. They're blocking people on social media that they don't agree with. They clearly can't handle the banter, and they're not in a position to be telling people what to do when they themselves can't handle the criticism that comes with it. You can't hijack an IP to tell people how to think or feel. That's like if someone got a hold of Mario and then like the next game that came out, it was basically about how he was repent, how now they're like let's say another some Christian company got a hold of Mario, and basically the next game it was a it was a story. It was like a Telltale game where your different stories decide the different endings. And it was all about how Mario needs to repent from his sins because he's such an evil person. And like the end of the game is him becoming saved and find his salvation. And I'm sure people would not be happy with that. I think that'd be hilarious. Super Mario and the 7 Deadly Sins. Oh my God, I'd play that just on principle. But I can understand how people who are not God-fearing people would have a problem with that. Just like with this, it's like, don't try to tell a story that doesn't need to be telling, and don't try to include such a small snippet in the game that's going to fundamentally change everything about the game just because you want to try to be woke. But yeah. I'm not a fan. I think Naughty Dog could have done a much better job. I'm not mad about where the game could go. I'm mad about how they've responded to the people. This is not how a major company responds. This is how a super triggered moron, man baby, would respond to somebody telling him that like, this is not how you play. Like, this is not how you play Yu-Gi-Oh. You played that card wrong. And he just sat there and started crying and basically, I'm never going to play with you again. That's what it sounds like. Even I would kind of like, does everything have to be about Jesus? I love Jesus, but not super hurtful. Exactly. Like, not everything. Like, that's my whole thing. And I really wish people to understand that. There are games that like to cater to people who are like, how can I say this? How can I say this without coming off as sounding like rude or disrespectful? And I'm not trying to be. I know there are games that include people in same-sex relationships and so on and so forth, and like they do tell decent stories. Like The Last of Us, Ellie is a lesbian. That's not been a secret. It was DLC to the core game, and it was in the trailer. It was a trailer cinematic for the sequel. Like that's not a secret. But the question remains is like how far down this well do we need to go, and is it really going to add any more to the story than what's already there? So I'm just saying, does it really need to be said? And if you felt like it really needed to be said, do you really need to start yelling at people when they have a problem with it? I mean, again, that's what happens when your content just, magically ends up on the internet. Anyway, I'm leaving it at that. I'm leaving it at that. I feel like Naughty Dog is playing identity politics, and they're virtue signaling. And I feel like if they can't kind of like hone it back a little bit, they're gonna lose a lot. They're gonna lose a lot out of this, and it's gonna suck for them. But the next one. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. So, Doctor Who. The BBC, I would assume on their YouTube channel, was doing a live watch party for the two-parter Human Nature and Family of Blood. For people who know what, that's from the David Tennant era of the show. Arguably, he's my number one favorite Doctor Who doctor. People can come at me and argue, no, David Tennant is an amazing actor, and he did really good. Like, his acting was superb in this two-parter. Definitely not the strongest two-parter, but he had really good acting in this. So they've been doing that now. Like, they're just doing like little live stream parties where you watch the classic episodes. I'm like, well, that's cool. At the end of the second one, they felt the need to include additional story. Okay. I won't give out the full details of what happened, but let's just say the evil alien family was punished, and each of them were dealt with differently. I'll leave it at that. The whole point of it was talking about the fury of the Doctor, the more serious side of the Doctor. And so after the second episode, they included a little cartoon with a picture of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, the current Doctor right now for the show, releasing one of the family members, the girl with the red balloon, from her prison in the mirror. In the show, what happened was this alien family was chasing the Doctor and his companion. He realized the only way he can escape is that he would have to rewrite his DNA to become human. And he ended up traveling to like the 1910s, I believe, where he rewrote his DNA, had his mind wiped, and basically all of his mind was transferred inside of like a fob watch. And he really did think he was human, to the point where his second heart was not beating. he thought he was human, and that's why the episode was really good, because like he at that time fell in love with somebody and he didn't want to give that up because he's basically like, I'm going to die and I will not have my life. Now, the alien family that's chasing them, they land, they kill 4 humans, assume their bodies as puppets, kill even more people, and at the very end of the episode, they're all imprisoned in various different ways. The girl was, they just said he imprisoned her in a mirror, and he explained that like every now and again, if you see like something in a mirror move, that's her for just a brief second. I thought that was kind of neat. So in this still frame, and it's like it's pulling back, so it's not a cartoon, it's not additional footage, it's just a still frame drawn as a cartoon. When I mean cartoon, I should have said like it's not a fully moving cartoon. It's just one frame. It's just one picture of Jodie Whittaker's doctor coming in and freeing the little girl from the portrait. And the narration says she did this because she realized it was wrong, and that by doing so, she rectifies the mistakes of her past and anything else from here on out. Okay. This may not bother some people who are not fans of the show, but let me put it to you like this. Jodie Whittaker's doctor is arguably one of the worst, because you can clearly tell the writing is shoehorned to yet again tell a story that's fit to the people who are writing the show. The BBC has made it very clear that they are going to write the show the way they want to write the show. There's a reason why nearly every female on that show is written to be some kind of giant war hero, and why every man is a bumbling idiot. Draw your own conclusions. If you don't agree with me, I recommend watching some of the later episodes. Arachnids in the UK, Orphan, I think it's Orphan 55, and then the last 2 episodes of the last season. There is not a competent man to be found anywhere. So, in this still frame little shot, and people can get mad at me all they want. I'm sorry. I'm being honest here. In that one shot, they managed to completely undo the whole point of what was going on. It was set in narration moments before the episode ended. The reason why why the doctor hid and became human, was not, it wasn't because he was scared. It was because he was being kind. He was giving the aliens a chance to give up, to leave. He was giving them a chance, because if not, he was going to catch them and he was going to have to deal with them he would have to deal with them. He would have to deal with them and punish them. So the fact they went this route to even go as far as just only freeing the little girl. Keep in mind, this little girl is being inhabited by an alien who has killed the little girl to assume her body. We're now to assume, she's the only one that's freed. Forget the father, forget the son. There was I guess a mother in there, even though she wasn't that old. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to rewrite legacy stuff? Because they felt as though they had to. Why does anyone rewrite a story? Think of it like this. Why does anyone go back and rewrite a story that's already been told? Because you feel like you need to change it for the better. And that's exactly what they did here. They they added more to the end of this episode because they felt as though that they needed to affect it in some way. That Jodie Whittaker's doctor, the second coming of the Dr. Jesus, the one that's going to save us all from those evil white men, is going to save us all, because we're going to go back and we're going to free homicidal aliens that are assuming the bodies of humans. In this case, a small child, because, she's kind. And I don't know, again, if you don't watch the show, understand the villain spectrum as far as gender, I'd say it's pretty balanced. Now, I was one of the people when they announced that Jodie Whittaker was going to take the role of the Doctor from Peter Capaldi. I was like, hey, I'm all for it. Oh, cool. Finally, it'd be really cool to see what they do with a woman at the helm. I have no problem with a woman playing the role. It hadn't been done. But you watch it now, and it's so painfully obvious that this is just, it feels like it's a cautionary tale against all of the woe of man. And it's not endearing, it's not kind, it's very mean-spirited. And now they're going to go back and just add more to previous episodes for the sake of they can. I have a problem with that. And people might not understand it. I get it. And I guess some people might not even care. But the whole point of that two-parter was very simple. He's being chased by an evil alien family. He needs to assume a human role to try and hide properly because the aliens have a limited lifespan. He's trying to wake them out and give them a chance. He then slowly is starting to realize he is not a normal man because I don't want to ruin it, but he's learning really quickly that throughout these two-parter that things are very wrong. He finds a female that he's working with in an academy that he cares about very much, has very intense feelings for, while at the same time his companion who's traveling with him, who has had feelings with him the entire season, is watching this happen, and it feels she felt conflicted at first, didn't want to do anything, but she's like, I don't care, you need to come back. So it's like she's balancing how she feels with this, knowing that, he's in love with her. And then there's this amazing scene in the house they're all hiding out at, where he's like, I don't want to give up this life. I don't want to become the doctor. Like, why can't I have my life? And this is where you saw like David Tennant's like acting chops. And like there was a scene where like the woman and him were holding the watch, and he got flashes into the future of like there are many kids and him dying of old age. And I got a little teary eyed because it was done very well. And he ends up deciding it's the Earth is in grave danger if he doesn't, because at the time, like they were destroying the village and pretty soon the world if he did not give up himself and the watch, or mainly the watch, because they wanted the mind of a Time Lord. Then they'll have unlimited, power and access to like the universe and all of its majestic powers. Ends up beating the aliens by making their ship explode, and I guess I'm ruining it. And then imprisons them in 4 different ways, and then. Now we end it, cool, but now the current BBC is like, no, we're gonna go back and we're gonna release the little girl, and and we're gonna point out, hey, you know what? We've made mistakes before, but this current doctor, they know what they're doing, and I'm just no. I'm so sick and tired of any of these companies feeling like they have to add their seal on something. That's like if any of these companies were gonna go back and like start working, like if that's a good example. Like The Office. Like, let's say somebody was like, hey, we're going to start doing The Office again, but we're going to go back and we're just going to add random crap to other episodes that serve no other purpose other than to tell a stupid story that's going to make us personally feel better. The people who are working on the show, the people who have absolutely no reason to take personal stake in any of this, because this is for like the millions of people watching at home who buy the merchandise, who buy the DVDs and the Blu-rays. But keep trying to appease the minorities and the woke people out there, because when your series finale does 4.5 million views, but when Jodie started it was actually over 10 million views, so you've lost over 50% of your viewer base because you felt as though what you believe in was more important than putting out a good, well-written show. And that's my problem. So I'm feeling a little bit better on that now. I'm feeling a little bit better on that. Can breathe a little bit. I really want Doctor Who to be decent, and I've tried watching some of the newer episodes, but oh my gosh, it's so grating. Boom. It does. I don't want anyone to get a hold of a show and just start going in there and start putting their personal spin on it that had nothing to do with it to begin with, just to try and become more culturally appropriate or be more, PC or virtue signal people, or trying to appeal to a minority of people who are like, we're not getting fair representation. I'm like, then write it into your show and do it right. Like if they would have done an episode dedicated to, like they did an episode dedicated to Rosa Parks. And I'd say it's one of the more better of the episodes. But again, they made Rosa a little bit like unlikable in that, and like maybe she wasn't like that in real life, but we're supposed to herald her as like a champion of civil rights. Like she stood up for what was right. No, this whole episode was basically a giant way to make anyone who is a man or even white feel as uncomfortable as humanly possible. Keep in mind, the older white guy in this show is basically traveling with the doctor after his wife had just died or had died. So let's keep making him the punching bag, if you will. I'm like, why are you doing this? It's just not the same. And I'm not well equipped to talk about media like that because, I don't want people to think I'm insulting them on a personal level. I'm not. I'm insulting the show. I'm insulting the fact that they clearly cannot write better stuff. And I'll come out and I'll speak in defense of that, even if they're writing it in a way that I might personally agree with. No, just don't touch it. Just don't touch it. And that was all 1 week. That was all 1 week. But we'll kind of go back to reselling stuff because apparently that does really well. I want to say really quick thank you to everyone who hung around, who chatting along. I definitely appreciate it. And here's to hoping I can get to 350 subscribers, I'd say within the next few months. As far as like board game content, my goal is to try to get quick reviews out because I'm noticing when it comes to board games, unless you're doing a long in-depth review, there's really no point to make it any more than 5 or 10 minutes. So that's my goal, is to try to keep it within that range. So I'm actually going to try to film one tonight and have it ready by the end of the week. And then Monday we'll do another What's New segment, and we'll keep that going. But one last story, and then we'll see where the show's at from there. So one of the groups that I'm in on Facebook, which is a board game group, they do, I think I started telling this earlier, they do shelfies. You take a picture of your board game collection, you put it on there, people talk about how wonderful it is. So I did it too. And like if you're into board games, like that's a ton of fun. You're just like, oh, I like that game, I want that game, and it's actually really cool. It's a lot of fun. It's a good place to do, buying, selling, trading. And guy messaged me saying he wanted to buy my copy of Marvel Legendary. Marvel Legendary is it's a deck building game. It's a deck building co-op game where you play against the game itself. You use small cards to buy various heroes, to defeat various villains. Tabletop with Will Wheaton did a fantastic episode talking about the game itself. It doesn't necessarily explain how to play everything in full, but I recommend checking it out. If you like Marvel and you like competitive deck building where you get to work with the people you're playing with, and yes, there is a singular winner at the game, but you can play it co-op if you really want to. But anyway, so he messaged me saying he wants to buy that game. I told him, well, not selling it, but I mean, I'm open to an offer. He says, well, can you do $20? And I laughed. Really quick, Marvel Legendary on Amazon.com, brand new, goes for about $55 to $60. And the copy I had, and I told him this, I said it also comes with the Fantastic Four expansion, which was selling about $20. And I was like, well, it's open, so it's clearly not new. And I said, it's got the expansion in there. And I said, top value retail for both of those is about $80, according to Amazon. And I went on eBay, and eBay was around there. I think 70, 65 on eBay for used. So I told him, I said, it goes for new around 70, 80. These are clearly not used. So, and I'm not looking to sell it. However, if you want it badly enough, I mean, it's got to make sense for me to want to sell it at the price I want to. So I'm like, I threw out a number of 50. Keep in mind, it's got the core game and it's got a $20 expansion. So something that at top value would go for anywhere between $70 and $90 brand new combined, I'm selling for $50. Some people, you might not agree with that, but at the same time, again, I wasn't in a hurry to sell it. He told me, well, I can't possibly do that. That's way too much. I can get a brand new copy right now from my friend who owns a game store for $30. And I was like, okay. And I told him, I said, oh, well, if you can, I'd recommend go getting it soon because it's not going to stay $30 for long. And he goes, oh, well, what's the best you can do on it? And I was just like, and I'm like, I really don't want to sell it, to be completely honest with you. The lowest I would do would be maybe 40, and that would be like a friend and family price. And he goes, 25. I can do 25. And I'm just come on. I priced up high because I know it's if I know right. Here's the thing. I know it was a decent item. I know it's not a widely available item. I've gone into several comic stores and board game stores, and they don't have many copies if they have any at all. So my thing was, I'm not looking to sell it. He's wanting to buy a game I don't want to get rid of. So I'm like, I'm not in a hurry to get rid of it. So he goes, 25. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I told him, I said, that would be me knocking the game in 50% off the core game and giving you an expansion for free. He goes, yeah, I know, that's used. And I'm like, no, that's not. That's not how it works. And he goes, yeah, it is. I've been doing this for years. And I'm like, and I told the guy, and I'm like, okay, well, does that mean you sell used PlayStation 4s for $100, or do you sell used Xbox Ones for $100? He goes, no. I'm like, well, then how does this apply to that? And again, I told him it's a game in my core collection, my own personal collection, that I don't want to sell. And not only are you lowballing me on it, but you're also trying to do it in a way. You're also trying to do it in a way where you're being scummy about it. So I told him, I said, you know what? Sorry. I'm like, no, even at $50, I'd be really hard pressed to not want to keep it. So no. Video game people can be pushy. Well, this is board game. Video game people can be extremely pushy. I have argued more with people about video games than I have anything else because people are ridiculous. There was once a kid who twice I sold to him in bulk, and each time he found something to complain about. And each time I told him, because he was getting I sold him $200 worth of video game stuff, and then he found things to complain about. I was like, you got a deal of over 50%. And I told you that several of these items may not work. Hence why the lot was so low. No, and he was just, I can tell right now he was being scummy. So he was being really scummy. He was clearly lying. And then he did it to me a second time with a bunch of GameCube games. And then say, oh, well, he bought 12 GameCube. I bought for $60. I sold him 12 GameCube games for $60. One of them was Luigi's Mansion. And at the time, Luigi's Mansion was about a $35, $40 game used. That was clearly the one he wanted. So I told him, I said, the game is used, but it works. He inspected the game, and he goes, oh, it's really scratched up, but I could probably resurface it. And I'm like, well, it worked this morning when I turned it on, and it worked again right before I left. So $60, bought everything. And then the following day, he sends me a text, oh, Luigi's Mansion isn't working. I want to get my money back. And I'm like, oh, my God. Okay, fine. So I'll give you $5 back. He goes, no, Luigi's Mansion is $30. And I told him, I said, no, that's not how this works. Before you sell something to him, again, ask him what's going to be wrong with it this time. I almost did. I swear I almost did. But I bit my tongue. But yeah, he legitimately was like, "Hey, this game is not working. It's the game I want, and I want my money back." So I was like, "Okay, well, I sold you 12 games for $60, which comes out to $5 a game." I said, "I'll give you $5 back." He goes, "No, the game is worth 30." And I was like, "No, it's not." I said, "You bought the game as a lot, so I treat every game as a part of that lot price for two reasons. Number one, so people do not cherry pick it, and then I am stuck with a bunch of games that I cannot get rid of. I'm essentially trying to sweeten these lots with good games instead of trying to sell lots of crap games that people don't want." I said, "Secondly, if we're going to play that game, you owe me an additional $60 then." He goes, "What?" I said, "No, if we're going value for value, you gave me 60. I counted 120 for all these games. You owe me another $60. And I said, then what you can do is you can come back with I said, I'll tell you what, you can come back with Luigi's Mansion as well as give me the additional $30 and we'll be all set." He goes, "That's not how it works." I'm like, "Well, why not? Are you seriously trying to get me to buy back my own game?" No, he's just a scumbag. And then my buddy Frank has dealt with him before, and he's a scumbag to him too. Like when I sold him like that the first time, when there was like a big box full of Nintendo 64 games, Super Nintendo games, Game Boy games, original Pokemon games. And I told him in person, because keep in mind, I looked up all these on price charting and on eBay, and I was like, these games retailed almost $450, and we agreed on $200. And I told him, I told him the Pokemon games may need a new battery. I said Voltage video games will replace batteries at a cost. I said, I don't know if they work. I don't have a Game Boy to test them on. "Oh, that's okay. I know how to do it." Following day, he messages me back. "Oh, they don't work. Batteries are dead." I'm like, "I told you this before." So no, when the second time happened with Luigi's Mansion, I told him, I said, "Look, I'll try to find you another copy, but I'm not going to give you $30 back for a game that you essentially only paid $5 for. That's not how it works. You're not going to get top use value back for a game that you bought at $5 essentially." So that's not how it's going to work. And I couldn't secure a copy, and he was trying to hold me to, "Oh, you owe me money." I'm like, I don't owe you anything. When I sold it to you, it worked. I said, for all I know, you're basically trying to test out a game that works, and then you're trying to con me out of more money. And then he starts sending me pictures of like the error screen for the GameCube, and one of them was with the tray was open, and I was like, "Well, of course it's not going to work. You have the game tray open, you dunce." And he's like, "I'm just trying to show you it won't work." And I'm like, "Again, it won't work if the game tray is open. You have to close it." So the idiot is trying to show me. It's like, "It's not working. See?" And I'm like, "Well, of course it's not working. You don't have the top put down. It will not read the disc." "Oh, it's not working. It's not working." And I'm like, again, I have no way of proving if it doesn't work or not. I'm not there with you. I said the game works. It worked when I sold it to you, and it worked the day before. It worked the day before that. It worked every single day. And he knew it was heavily used, and he bought it anyway. If he would have been like, "Nah, I don't know if I can take a chance on this," I'm like, well, then we could have worked out a different kind of deal. But that's the kind of person he was. He'll want to buy stuff at super cheap, and then he'll turn around and complain when something doesn't work, and he'll either want more money back or he'll want something in return. So I don't do deals with that kid anymore. It's not worth my time. It is just not worth my time dealing with people who are just complete and utter scumbags. It really pisses me off when people act like that and then wonder why they don't make any. Like, these are the people who want to get into the reselling hobby thinking that they're going to make stacks upon stacks of cash, but then they realize, oh crap, I'm not going to make money in a market where people can actually look this stuff up as I'm pricing it. So for people out there who want to just thinking they're going to become millionaires within a year, understand that we live in an age of technology where people can look this stuff up and buy it just as cheap right there on the fly. Oh my God, like, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating when people think they're so much smarter than you when it comes to this. And it's like, it's not a matter of intelligence. It's a matter of common sense, and it's a matter of simple logic. Okay. You getting a Nintendo system with like 5 games and you turning around telling me it's $200 just because there's a Mario 3 in there, that doesn't mean it's $200. And that's what I mean by video games can be ridiculous. Because I've noticed when it's Nintendo products, like I saw this on Facebook Marketplace today too. Some guy was selling a copy of Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo for $150. Now, just gonna point this out there. There is a thing called the Super Nintendo Classic, which has that built into it. It's essentially a free ROM, and I think the Super Nintendo Online for the Switch, I think it also has Chrono Trigger, if I'm not mistaken. But if it doesn't, or if not, it has Secret of Evermore. But I was like, $150 for a game that's on a, $60 to $80 compact console. I'm like, no, what are you doing? Or it's people selling computer stuff. Like, there was a guy selling a desktop that I was actually interested in because I could do simple upgrades to it. And I messaged him and I asked him, I said, is $150 reflective on just the, and it was an honest question. I said, is the $150 just for the tower, or is it for the monitor and the keyboard and all of that? He said for an additional $50, he can throw in the monitor and the keyboard. Upon first glance, you can clearly tell that these were like bargain bin computer equipment. The keyboard was a Logitech wired keyboard. Those are $10 at any Walmart or Target. The monitor, $20, and it looked like the computers that my high school used to have. And I looked at his computer specs, and he essentially had everything that needed to get upgraded, which he lied about because when he sent me his spec list of parts, they were wrong compared to what he had listed. And I was like, oh, it says here you got a Radeon 580. Why does this say a 370? Oh, well, I sold my 580. I'm like, okay. It also says on here this is 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. This on the ad says 16. Oh, I sold a stick. And I'm like, okay, well then we clearly don't have a $150 computer here, guy. This is like $100 at best. So trying to think if there's any other like deals that I had. I don't really think so. I sold some mini pop figures. Like it was just a bag full of mini Harry Potter pop figures, and I sold them to somebody for like 20, like a bag full of them. Sold them for 20, bunch of board games, some computer stuff. Gonna sell my tower and the motherboard and the CPU for fairly cheap. So that's that. So wow, hour and a half, nice. So I'm actually gonna cut it here. You guys have been a great crowd. Thank you so much for coming in, hanging out, chit-chatting. It's been a lot of fun. I think this may be the best one as far as numbers. I'll have to wait until this thing like officially like comes up and I get to I'll see the analytics. But yeah, this becomes a thing. I'd love to make it a weekly thing, and it's awesome to talk with a lot of you that I can't see anymore until this whole thing gets lifted. But guys, again, thank you so much for just being a part of this, coming by, chit-chatting, hanging with me. It's fun to be able to sit and socialize with people that are not my kid and my wife. That's not to say I don't like talking to them. It's just nice to talk to other people. So you all stay safe out there. Be kind to each other. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.